I never expected my life to change so abruptly. 10 years of marriage to Maggie, built on what I thought was a foundation of trust and love, came crashing down in a single moment. It was an ordinary day, or so I thought. I came home early from work, eager to spend time with Maggie and our son, Tom. The house was quiet, almost too quiet. Maggie's phone, which she never left unattended, was buzzing on the kitchen counter. Curiosity got the better of me, and I glanced at the screen. A message from someone named Mike. The words were clear, undeniable evidence of an affair. It all started that Friday afternoon. I had wrapped up work earlier than usual, feeling unusually cheerful. The sun was shining, birds were singing. It felt like a perfect day to surprise Maggie and Tom. As I pulled into the driveway, I noticed Maggie's car was in the garage, but the house seemed oddly silent. "Hey, Maggie, I'm home." I called out, but there was no response. I made my way to the kitchen, and there it was, Maggie's phone, buzzing on the counter. She was always so protective of it. Something didn't feel right. I picked it up, hesitating for a moment. Maybe it was nothing. But when I saw the message preview, my heart sank. "Mike, can't wait to see you again. Last night was incredible. Love you." The words blurred before my eyes as I struggled to process them. I felt like I was in a nightmare, one I couldn't wake up from. I had to know more. My fingers moved almost involuntarily, unlocking her phone and scrolling through the messages. Each one was a dagger to my heart, plans for secret meetings, expressions of love, and memories of moments shared. The betrayal was evident, stark, and unforgivable. Just then, Maggie walked in. She froze, seeing her phone in my hand and the expression on my face. Her eyes widened, and she seemed to understand immediately. "James, what are you doing with my phone?" she asked, her voice trembling. I couldn't hold back. "Who is Mike?" I demanded, my voice raw with pain and anger. Maggie's face went pale. "James, I can explain." "Explain what?" "That you've been cheating on me? That you've been lying to me and Tom for God knows how long?" My voice was rising, and I felt my whole body shaking. Tears welled up in her eyes. "James, please, it's not what you think." Not what I think? Are you serious, Maggie? I've seen the messages. I've read your lies. How long has this been going on? I felt a burning need to know the truth, no matter how much it hurt. She broke down, sobbing. "It's been a few months. I didn't mean for it to happen, it just did." "A few months? While I've been here, loving you, taking care of Tom, you've been with him?" My voice cracked, the pain overwhelming me. "I'm sorry, James. I never wanted to hurt you. Please, for Tom's sake, can we work this out?" She reached out to touch my arm, but I recoiled. "For Tom's sake? You think using our son as an excuse will make this better?" I could feel the tears stinging my eyes. "How could you do this to us, Maggie?" "To him? I know I messed up, James. But please, we can go to counseling, we can fix this. Don't throw away everything we've built." Her voice was desperate, pleading. But I couldn't see past the betrayal. The life we had built, the trust we had, was shattered. I shook my head, stepping back. "I can't, Maggie. I can't do this. I need to get out of here." With that, I turned and walked out, the weight of what had happened pressing down on me like a ton of bricks. The only thing I knew for sure was that I couldn't stay. I needed to get away, to find some way to process the unimaginable pain and betrayal. As I drove away, my thoughts turned to Tom. How would I explain this to him? How could I protect him from the fallout of his mother's actions? That night, I lay in a hotel room, staring at the ceiling, trying to make sense of it all. The woman I loved, the mother of my child, had betrayed me in the worst possible way. I knew I had to move to another city, away from the memories, but I vowed to remain committed to supporting and visiting Tom. He was the innocent one in all of this, and I wouldn't let him suffer more than he had to. The next morning, I returned to the house to gather some of my things. Maggie was there, looking as if she hadn't slept at all. She tried to talk to me, but I couldn't listen. I just packed my bags in silence. Tom was still asleep, and I was grateful for that. I didn't want him to see me like this, to see the pain and anger I couldn't hide. As I was about to leave, Maggie grabbed my arm. "James, please. Don't do this. We can fix it. For Tom." I looked at her, the woman I once loved more than anything, and shook my head. "No, Maggie. I can't. You broke us. And I don't know if I can ever forgive you for that." With that, I walked out, leaving behind 10 years of memories, love, and betrayal. I drove to a new city, determined to start over, to rebuild my life from the ground up. And as I drove, I promised myself that I would always be there for Tom, no matter what. He was my son, and he deserved better than this. Starting over in a new city was harder than I had ever imagined. Every corner of my old life, every routine I left behind, clung to my mind like a shadow. Each day was a struggle to find a semblance of normalcy, but I knew I had to push through, for Tom's sake. He was my anchor, the reason I forced myself out of bed each morning and tried to rebuild my shattered life. I rented a modest apartment and threw myself into work, hoping the constant activity would drown out the pain. My new colleagues were friendly enough, but I kept my distance, not ready to open up about my past. It was during one of these long days at the office that I met Barbara. She was a new hire in the marketing department, and from the moment we exchanged our first polite greetings, I sensed a depth of kindness in her. One day, as I was leaving the office late, I ran into her in the parking lot. She was struggling with a flat tire. Seeing an opportunity to help someone and distract myself from my own troubles, I approached her. "Need a hand with that?" I asked, pointing to the deflated tire. Barbara looked up, relief evident in her eyes. "Oh, James, that would be great. I've never been very good with cars." "No problem at all. Let's get this sorted." I smiled, rolling up my sleeves. As we worked together to change the tire, we talked. I learned that Barbara was a widow with 2 children, Emily and Jack. In the weeks that followed, Barbara and I grew closer. We started having lunch together at work, sharing stories about our pasts, and slowly, our bond deepened. It wasn't long before she invited me over for dinner to meet her children. "James, I'd love for you to come over and meet Emily and Jack," Barbara said one afternoon. "They've heard so much about you, and I think it's time you all got to know each other." "I'd be honored," I replied, feeling a warmth I hadn't felt in a long time. That evening, I arrived at Barbara's house, a charming place filled with the laughter and chaos of children. Emily, the older of the two, was a bright and spirited girl, while Jack was more reserved but equally endearing. Dinner was a lively affair, with stories and laughter filling the air. For the first time since leaving Maggie, I felt a genuine sense of happiness. As the evening wound down, Barbara and I found a quiet moment on the porch while the kids played inside. "Thank you for coming tonight, James," Barbara said softly. "It means a lot to us." "It means a lot to me too," I admitted. "I haven't felt this at home in a long time." She smiled, a warmth in her eyes that made my heart ache in a good way. "We're both starting over, aren't we?" "Yeah, I guess we are," I said, looking out at the night sky. "And maybe that's okay. Maybe we can help each other through it." As months passed, my relationship with Barbara blossomed. Emily and Jack became like my own children, their laughter and love helping to heal the wounds left by Maggie's betrayal. Every weekend with Tom was a cherished event. We would explore the parks, go to movies, and I'd spend hours just listening to him talk about school and his friends. One Sunday afternoon, as we sat on a bench in the park, Tom looked up at me with a serious expression. "Dad, are we ever going to live together again? Like before?" I sighed, feeling the familiar pang of guilt and sadness. "Tom, things are different now. But that doesn't mean I love you any less. I'm always here for you, no matter what." He nodded, his young mind trying to grasp the complexities of adult relationships. "I know, Dad. I just miss us being a family." "I miss it too, buddy," I said, pulling him into a hug. "But we can still have our own special times together, and those are just as important." Gradually, I began to feel whole again. Barbara's love and the children's presence filled the void left by my separation from Tom. We built new traditions, celebrated milestones together, and created a new life that, while different, was fulfilling in its own way. For the first time in a long while, I looked forward to the future with hope and happiness. My new life with Barbara felt like a dream I hadn't dared to hope for. Each day brought a sense of normalcy and happiness I thought I had lost forever. The pain of Maggie's betrayal still lingered, but it was dulled by the warmth of my new family. Every morning, I woke up to the sound of laughter and the comforting chaos of Emily and Jack getting ready for school. Barbara's presence was a constant source of strength and love. Our bond grew deeper with each passing day, solidifying the foundation of our new beginning. One crisp Saturday morning, as the first hints of autumn colored the trees, I found myself in the kitchen making pancakes. Emily and Jack were eagerly waiting at the table, chattering about their plans for the day. Barbara was sipping her coffee, a soft smile playing on her lips as she watched the scene unfold. "These pancakes smell amazing, James," Barbara said, her eyes twinkling with affection. "Thanks, Barb. I think I've finally perfected the recipe," I replied, flipping a pancake onto a plate and handing it to Jack. Jack grinned up at me. "Dad, can we go to the park after breakfast?" Hearing him call me Dad still tugged at my heart. I nodded, ruffling his hair. "Of course, buddy. We can play soccer and maybe get some ice cream after." Emily chimed in, "Can we invite Tom too? I miss him." "Tom's with his mom this weekend, I said, my heart aching a bit. "But he'll be with us next weekend, and we can do something fun then." Barbara reached out and squeezed my hand. "We'll make sure to have a great time today, even without Tom." Later that day, as promised, we headed to the park. The children ran ahead, their laughter echoing through the crisp air. Barbara and I walked hand in hand, enjoying the peacefulness of the moment. "James, I've been thinking," Barbara said, her voice thoughtful. "I know it's still early, but how would you feel about us making this official? Getting married?" Her words took me by surprise. I stopped walking and looked into her eyes, searching for any doubt. But all I saw was love and certainty. I had been thinking about it too, but I didn't want to rush her or the kids. "I've been thinking about it too," I admitted. "I love you, Barbara. I love Emily and Jack. And I want us to be a real family." A smile spread across her face, lighting up her eyes. "Then let's do it, James. Let's get married and build a future together." We sealed our decision with a kiss, and I felt a surge of happiness and relief. This was our new beginning, and it felt right in every way. The next few months were a whirlwind of planning and excitement. Emily and Jack were thrilled about the wedding, and even Tom seemed to share our enthusiasm. We decided to have a small, intimate ceremony with just family and close friends. Tom would be the ring bearer, and Emily and Jack would be flower girl and page boy. On the day of the wedding, the autumn sun shone brightly, casting a golden glow over everything. As I stood at the altar, waiting for Barbara, I felt a mix of nerves and overwhelming joy. Then, she appeared, walking down the aisle with a grace and beauty that took my breath away. Emily and Jack followed, beaming with pride. Tom, holding the rings, stood beside me, looking both excited and serious. "Dad, you look really happy," he whispered. "I am, Tom. I really am," I whispered back, giving his shoulder a reassuring squeeze. The ceremony was beautiful, filled with love and heartfelt vows. As we exchanged rings, I looked into Barbara's eyes and saw our future, one filled with love, trust, and the family we were building together. "I promise to love and cherish you, Barbara, for the rest of my life," I said, my voice steady with conviction. "And I promise to stand by you, James, through all the joys and challenges we'll face together," Barbara replied, her eyes shining with tears of happiness. After the ceremony, we celebrated with a small reception at our home. The kids played in the yard, laughter ringing out, while Barbara and I mingled with our guests, basking in the joy of the day. As the sun began to set, I took a moment to step back and watch my new family. Emily and Jack were playing tag with Tom, their faces flushed with excitement. Barbara was talking with her sister, a content smile on her lips. This was our new beginning, and it was more than I had ever hoped for. That night, after the guests had left and the children were asleep, Barbara and I sat on the porch, wrapped in each other's arms. Today was perfect, Barbara said softly. I couldn't have asked for anything more. It was, I agreed, kissing her forehead. And it's just the beginning, Barb. We have a whole future ahead of us. She looked up at me, her eyes filled with love and determination. Together, we can handle anything, James. Together, I echoed, feeling a profound sense of peace. For the first time in a long while, I felt truly happy, ready to embrace whatever the future held for us. And so, with my new family by my side, I embarked on this new chapter of my life, filled with hope, love, and the promise of a brighter tomorrow. If you like this story, please subscribe, like, click the bell, and leave a comment. Thank you in advance.